All right, so today we're cracking open a bottle, but not in the usual way.
Right, not exactly.
This is a deep dive into the world of Chianti.
Ah, Chianti.
We've got excerpts from a book that's like Chianti 101, plus a whole stack of articles.
It sounds like we're going deep.
Deeper than the bottom of that bottle, that's for sure.
One thing that always fascinates me about Chianti
Yeah.
is how tied it is to the whole story of Tuscany itself, you know?
It's more than just a wine, you're right.
It really is.
Most people, I think, when they hear Chianti, they picture what those picture-perfect Tuscan landscapes.
Oh, absolutely. Rolling hills and those cypress trees, those charming little villages.
Exactly.
But it's so much more than just a pretty postcard, you know?
Right, like the region itself is somehow bottled in the wine.
Yeah.
I'm curious about this. How far back does this whole winemaking thing go?
Oh, way back.
Our sources mention, like, Etruscans and Romans, they were already making wine in this area.
Yeah, imagine those ancient civilizations, like tending vineyards on those same hills, making wine centuries before we even had, like, the idea of Chianti as we know it.
That just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
But then things get really interesting, I think, in the Middle Ages.
Oh, yeah.
You've got these powerful families, like the Medicis. They're investing heavily in Chianti.
Yeah, the Medicis, they weren't just making wine. They were shaping the whole image of it, you know?
So they're kind of like the original influencers.
They were. They really were.
For Chianti.
Their influence elevated Chianti to, like, a real status symbol.
Oh, wow.
It was the wine to drink if you were anybody.
So they're the ones who planted those seeds for Chianti's reputation as, like, a high-quality wine, huh?
Exactly. And that's where we start to see the emergence of this Chianti Classico designation.
Yeah, Chianti Classico.
It was this effort to, like, define what was the highest quality and link it to a specific area.
Makes sense.
So not just any old Chianti could be Chianti Classico.
Right, right.
There were rules.
And speaking of quality, we can't talk about Chianti without talking about Sangiovese, right?
Oh, absolutely not. Sangiovese, that's the heart and soul of Chianti.
The grape that makes it all happen.
At least 80% of a Chianti blend has to be Sangiovese.
Wow.
And it's known for a few things, you know, high acidity, firm tannins, and this amazing complexity of aromas.
I'm always amazed by how the flavors in Sangiovese can range, you know,
Oh, yeah.
from like bright cherry and plum, you get those,
Absolutely.
and then all the way to those like deeper, almost earthy notes.
Yeah, you even get a little hint of black pepper sometimes.
Yeah, black pepper, I get that.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It's really not a one-dimensional grape at all.
Not at all.
And what's even more fascinating is that there are, like, different varieties of Sangiovese itself.
Really?
Oh, yeah, like, you know, Sangiovese Grosso, that's the big one for Brunello di Montalcino.
Oh, okay.
So within Sangiovese, you've got this whole other layer of complexity.
Wow, and then on top of that, you add in the whole idea of terroir, right?
Terroir, exactly. It's Tuscany's unique combination of climate, soil, and altitude. It all plays a part.
And our sources were talking about how those warm, dry summers in Tuscany and
Yeah.
mild winters, those are just like ideal for Sangiovese.
Perfect conditions.
But it's not as simple as that, right? Altitude plays a role too.
Oh, altitude's huge. You see, the higher vineyards, they get cooler temperatures, which is kind of counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But they also get more sun exposure, which is key.
So it's like this delicate balance.
It really is. You're impacting the aromas, the acidity, the whole thing.
Like nature is fine-tuning these grapes
Exactly.
for the best possible flavor.
And then we've got soil.
Right. Can't forget the soil.
Chianti has all sorts of soil types, you know, mainly clay and limestone.
Yeah.
And that adds this mineral character to the wine.
So it's like this puzzle, isn't it? You've got the grape variety, the climate, the altitude, the soil.
All these pieces coming together.
To create this unique personality.
Exactly.
The personality is
So-
Chianti. But I'm also curious about the different personalities, I guess, within the Chianti family itself.
Oh, you mean the subregion?
The subregions.
There are 8 of them.
Yeah.
Each one brings something unique to the table.
8.
It's like, if you think of Chianti as a family,
Okay.
you've got 8 siblings,
I like that.
each one with their own, like, quirks and charms.
Okay, so give me the rundown. Let's meet these siblings.
All right, so first up, you've got the OG Chianti Classico.
Chianti Classico, the original.
This is the one known for its elegance and complexity. Think, like, intense red fruit aromas, a little bit of spice, and a touch of earthiness.
Very sophisticated.
It is. It's a classic for a reason.
Then we have Colli Fiorentini.
Colli Fiorentini, that's just north of Florence.
What makes that one special?
Well, the wines there tend to be a bit brighter, more vibrant.
Oh, okay.
Really focused on fresh fruit and that lively acidity that just makes you want to take another sip.
So like a more refreshing style.
Yeah, if you like lighter-bodied wines, Colli Fiorentini is a great place to
Hmm.
start.
And what about, like, for those who like those bolder
Oh,
wines?
then you go south, you head to Colli Senesi.
Colli Senesi. Okay.
That's where you get those ripe, dark fruit flavors, a good dose of spice.
Oh, wow.
Perfect with those hearty Tuscan dishes.
That sounds amazing.
It is.
What about, okay, let's say I'm looking for a Chianti that's really gonna, like, tantalize my
Oh,
senses.
yeah. Then Colli Aretini might be your answer.
Colli Aretini. Okay.
Incredible aromatic diversity there. From ripe berries to herbs and spices, it's like a sensory explosion.
I'm intrigued.
She should be.
Now, what about west of Florence? We've got Montalbano, right?
Montalbano, yes.
Yeah.
Those wines often have this beautiful minerality.
Minerality, okay.
It's almost like a stony, almost saline quality. It reflects the unique soil there.
So you can really taste the terroir.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned earlier some Chiantis can have these, like, chocolate and coffee notes.
Ah, yes.
Where would I find those?
Look no further than Montespertoli.
Montepertoli, got it.
That's the spot for those deeper, more nuanced flavors. They get complex and aromatic wines there.
Okay, Montespertoli on the list.
Now, east of Florence, you've got Rufina,
Rufina.
another expression of elegance and complexity there.
Okay,
Think delicate floral notes interwoven with spice, very refined.
sounds lovely.
It's very captivating.
And last but not least, we have Colleen Pisane.
Colleen Pisane, yes. This one brings us back to that freshness and minerality.
Oh.
But you also get this added charm of bright red fruit and delicate florals.
Oh, wow.
Think of it as the, approachable, easy-drinking member of the family.
It's a friendly one.
Exactly.
So 8 distinct subregions, each with its own unique personality. It's like Chianti offers something for everybody.
It really does. A Chianti for every palate.
Now, we've talked about the grapes, the regions, but how do we get from grape to glass?
Ah, the production process. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, tell me about that.
It's not as simple as just, crushing grapes and bottling the juice.
Right.
It's this dance between tradition and innovation.
Okay.
So you still see a lot of traditional methods in Chianti, like fermentation in those big concrete or wood vats.
Yeah.
But modern techniques are being used too
Mhm.
to refine and control the process.
So it's about respecting the historical methods,
Absolutely.
but also using advancements
Yeah, the best of both worlds.
to get the best possible wine.
Exactly. And one of the big decisions in Chianti production is oak aging.
Oh, oak aging.
It's not mandatory for all Chianti, but a lot of it does spend time in oak barrels.
Right.
And this is where things get even more interesting.
Because it's not just any oak. Right.
Like you've got different types of oak.
Our sources talk about Slavonian oak and French oak,
Ah, the classic.
and those have, like, really different impacts on the final flavor.
They really do.
So tell me, like, what's the difference?
Okay, so Slavonian oak, that's been the traditional favorite in Chianti.
Okay.
It gives the wine more subtle tannins, a little bit of spice.
Oh,
It integrates beautifully with those Sangiovese fruit flavors.
It's all about balance.
Exactly, like a harmony in the glass.
And what about French oak?
French oak, now that one, it tends to create a more structured wine. You get those elegant vanilla and toasty aromas.
So French oak adds, like, another layer of complexity.
Exactly, it rounds out the profile.
So we've got all these different styles. We've got the subregions. We've got the oak.
Yeah.
How do I even begin to choose a Chianti that I'm going to like?
Well, that's where the classifications come in.
Oh, the classifications.
These are like signposts to guide you.
Guide me through this because it can get a little confusing.
All right, so the most common one you'll see is Chianti DOCG.
Okay, Chianti DOCG.
That's like your entry point, a good introduction to the world of Chianti.
Okay, so if I'm new to Chianti, that's where I should start.
Exactly. It gives you a taste of those typical flavors, the vibrant fruitiness, the herbal notes.
And if I want to, like, level up,
then you go for Chianti Classico DOCG.
Chianti Classico DOCG, okay.
Stricter rules there, often a bit more depth of flavor, more complexity.
So more bang for my buck.
You could see that.
And then for the true Chianti connoisseur,
Then you're talking Chianti Classico Gran Selezione DOCG.
Gran Selezione.
Now, this is the top tier.
What makes it so special?
Okay, so these wines come from the estate's best vineyards, only the most meticulously selected grapes, and they're aged longer.
So they're putting a lot of extra love and care into these.
They are. The result is a wine that's just exceptional, really concentrated, beautifully balanced, and it ages like a dream.
So if you're looking for a special occasion Chianti or something to cellar?
Gran Selezione, that's the one.
Okay, and then for people who appreciate a little bit of age on their wine.
Oh, then you've got Chianti Reserva DOCG.
Caldeserva, yeah.
This applies to both Chianti DOCG and Chianti Classico DOCG.
Okay.
And it just means it's been aged longer.
So more time in the bottle.
More time for those flavors to develop, to get more complex.
That sounds good.
It really is. You get those tertiary aromas, things like leather, tobacco, dried fruit. It's all about showcasing the aging potential of Chianti.
Okay, Reserva. Got it.
And then you have Superiore, which is just a step above the basic DOCG.
Superiore.
Lower yields, a bit higher alcohol content, just a more concentrated, intense wine.
So it's got a little more oomph to it.
Exactly.
But before we get too lost in the reds,
Right.
Chianti's not just red wine, is it?
No, of course not.
We've got those rosés too.
Oh, the rosés, or rosato as they call them in Italian.
Okay, Rosato.
Lighter, more refreshing, perfect for a warm day.
And then, for those of us with a sweet tooth,
Then we have Vinsanto,
Vinsanto, I've heard of that.
made from dried grapes, bursting with flavors of dried fruit, honey, caramel, all that good stuff.
That sounds delicious.
Oh, it is a real treat.
It's like dessert in a glass.
Exactly.
Now, it's one thing to, know all the technical stuff about Chianti, but what I love about our sources is how they really emphasize the whole experience of Chianti, you know?
More than just a drink.
Exactly. Like, it's meant to be enjoyed as part of a bigger cultural experience.
Absolutely. It's about immersing yourself in the culture, the history, the food. It's all interconnected.
It's like, even if you can't be in Tuscany,
Yeah.
Chianti can bring Tuscany to you.
It can transport you there just for a little while.
And that's what makes it so special.
It's a connection to a place, a way of life.
It's more than just a wine.
Much more.
It's an experience.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here in this first part of our Chianti deep dive.
We have. We've gone from ancient history to modern winemaking.
We've talked about the grapes, the regions, the classifications, the whole shebang.
And we're just getting started.
Exactly. When we come back for part 2, we're going to dive even deeper.
Even deeper.
Into the world of Chianti tasting. We're going to actually engage our senses and unlock those flavors and aromas.
That's right. We're going to get into the nitty-gritty.
So get ready for a sensory adventure.
It's going to be fun.
I can't wait.
Me neither.
Welcome back to our Chianti deep dive.
It's time to actually pour ourselves a glass
Oh, yeah.
and get to the heart of the experience.
Let's do it.
What does Chianti actually taste like?
Yeah, we've laid all this groundwork, right?
We have
We've talked about the history,
the terroir, the grape.
the classifications, but
It's all theoretical until you actually
Yeah.
experience those flavors and aromas for yourself.
it's one thing to know that Sangiovese, has high acidity,
Right.
but it's another to actually feel that, hentomizing on your tongue,
Exactly.
right?
So let's turn our attention to the art of tasting Chianti, shall we?
Let's do it.
Engage all of our senses, uncover its secrets.
And, it's not just about, identifying flavors, right?
It's the whole experience.
It's about the setting, the company, even, your mood.
Oh, absolutely.
It can all affect how you perceive the wine.
It's a mindfulness practice in a way, being present,
Yeah.
savoring each sensation.
Okay, so let's say I have a glass of Chianti in front of me,
Right.
ready to be explored. Where do I even start?
Well, before you even take a sip,
Okay.
let's start with the visual.
Okay.
Take a moment to observe the color of the wine in the glass.
I've noticed that Chianti, it can be like a bright ruby red.
Right.
Sometimes it's a deeper, almost garnet color. What does that tell us?
Oh, the color, it gives you clues about the wine's age and style.
Okay.
So those younger Chiantis, they often have that vibrant, kind of translucent ruby hue.
Yeah, yeah.
But as Chianti ages, the color deepens and you start to get those garnet tones.
So it's like a visual timeline
It is. It's a story in a glass.
of the wine's journey.
And the intensity of the color can also hint at the wine's body, like a deeper, more concentrated color might suggest a fuller-bodied wine,
Oh. Okay.
while a lighter, more translucent color could point to a lighter-bodied wine.
That makes sense.
So color's your first clue.
Okay, got it.
Now, let's move on to aroma.
Aroma. Okay.
Give the wine a gentle swirl in your glass.
Yeah, I love doing that.
It not only looks elegant,
It does.
but it helps to release those volatile aromatic compounds.
It's like waking up the wine.
It is inviting it to share its secrets.
I like that.
And Chianti has many stories to tell.
There's so many.
So bring the glass to your nose, take a deep inhale. What are you getting?
I'm getting those classic red fruit notes. I smell cherry, plum, maybe a little raspberry,
That's the Sangiovese. That's its signature.
and it smells so good.
It does, but look beyond the fruit. What else do you notice?
Now that you mention it, I do get a little bit of a a floral note,
Oh, yeah.
like violets, maybe a hint of rose.
That's it. Those floral aromas, they add complexity, they lift the wine.
It's like a bouquet.
And depending on the style, the aging,
Yeah.
you might also get some spicy notes.
Like what kind of spices?
Well, think like black pepper, maybe a little clove, cinnamon, things like that.
I do love those warm spices.
Yeah, depth.
They make it more interesting.
Have you ever noticed those like earthy, leathery hints in some Chiantis?
Oh, yeah, especially the older ones.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a forest floor or an old leather-bound book.
That's it. Those are those tertiary aromas. They develop as the wine ages.
It's like a history lesson in a glass.
It is, telling you about its journey through time.
Okay, so we've looked at it, we've smelled it.
Right.
Now I'm ready for the main event, the tasting.
All right. The moment of truth.
Let's do this.
Take a sip, not just a quick taste. Let the wine coat your palate.
Okay, I'm doing it. I'm coating my palate.
Good. Now pay attention to how it feels in your mouth, the texture, the weight, the way it lingers.
I immediately notice that acidity.
The acidity, oh yeah.
It's like bright, lively.
That's Chianti through you. That's that vibrant acidity. It's a hallmark.
It gives it, like, energy.
It does. It's like a spine running through the wine.
And it's refreshing.
And, acidity also plays a role in aging. It's like a preservative.
So those older Chiantis we were talking about?
Exactly. They can age gracefully because of that acidity.
That's fascinating.
Now, what about the tannins?
Yeah, the tannins, how do they feel?
Well, tannins, they're those astringent compounds. They
Yeah.
can be quite firm, grippy in younger Chiantis.
Okay,
But as the wine ages, they soften, they become more velvety,
I see.
and they integrate into the wine.
So they're responsible for that drying sensation on your tongue?
Exactly. They contribute to the structure, the texture.
And I've always noticed, like, Chianti pairs so well with food.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Especially those rich, savory Tuscan dishes.
Because of the tannins?
Yes, the tannins act like a palate cleanser. They cut through that richness, create balance.
It's like a perfect pairing.
It is a match made in heaven.
Okay, so we have the acidity, the tannins. What about those fruit flavors?
The fruit flavors, oh, they're still there. They can be so expressive in Chianti.
Yeah, I'm tasting those same red fruits I was smelling.
Absolutely. Cherry, plum, maybe a little strawberry.
Even some cranberry.
Sometimes, depending on the style, you might even get some darker fruit flavors, like blackberry, blackcurrant.
Oh, okay.
That's more typical in those bolder Chiantis.
Like those Chianti wines.
Exactly.
With the ripe, dark fruit and the spice.
And let's not forget those herbal and earthy notes.
Those add a lot.
They do. Little tobacco, leather, even forest floor.
Especially in those older wines.
Yes, it's like each sip is telling a story.
I love that.
Layers of flavor unfolding.
It's almost poetic.
It is. Tasting Chianti is a journey of discovery.
It really is.
It's about engaging your senses, appreciating those nuances.
This all sounds so fascinating, but for someone who's like new to Chianti,
Yeah.
maybe feeling a little intimidated by this whole tasting process, like what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, relax. Enjoy the experience. Don't overthink it.
Yeah, just have fun.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
no right or wrong way to taste wine.
Trust your palate.
Be curious. Be open-minded.
Let your senses be your guide.
That's it. And above all, have fun.
Because wine is supposed to be fun.
Absolutely. It's not a test.
You know, as we're talking about this, it
Yeah.
keeps coming back to me. Like, we've explored all the technical aspects,
Right.
but I'm curious about, like, the cultural significance of Chianti.
Oh, that's a great point.
It's more than just a drink, right?
It really is. It's deeply intertwined with the culture and history of Tuscany. It's a symbol of a way of life.
It's like the heart of Italian hospitality.
It is. You can almost taste the Tuscan sunshine in a glass of Chianti.
It's like, those sun-drenched hills, the cypress trees lining the roads.
The aroma of herbs carried on the breeze.
I think that's why it has such a strong emotional resonance for people.
Absolutely. It taps into that desire for authenticity, for connection.
Especially in today's world.
Right. With everything being so fast-paced, so digital,
Chianti offers something, like, timeless.
it's grounding.
And I love this idea of Chianti as a living tradition.
Oh, yeah.
It's not frozen in time.
It's constantly evolving.
And our sources talk about how the winemakers are embracing this.
Yeah.
Finding that balance between tradition and innovation.
They're experimenting with new techniques, new grape varieties.
While still respecting the heritage.
Exactly. They're writing the next chapter in Chianti's story.
I love that. And it's a story that's being shaped by so many factors,
Oh, yeah.
Climate change, the global market, consumer preferences.
It's a challenging time, but they're adapting.
And what really struck me was the passion of these people.
The winemakers.
The people behind the wine.
We're committed.
They're so dedicated. to
Yeah.
preserving Chianti.
It's their life's work.
And it makes you appreciate every bottle even more.
It does, knowing the care that goes into it.
It's not just a product.
It's a labor of love.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this exploration of Chianti's flavors and aromas?
I hope they've gained a deeper appreciation for the artistry, the complexity.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll feel inspired to embark on their own Chianti tasting adventure,
That would be amazing.
to discover those unique nuances, find their own connection.
But our Chianti journey isn't over yet.
No, not quite.
When we return for the final part, we're going to delve even deeper
Even deeper.
into the cultural significance of Chianti, its enduring appeal, and what the future holds for this iconic wine region. All right, welcome back to our final part of this Chianti deep dive. It's been a journey.
It has. We've gone from history and grapes all the way to swirling and sniffing.
Yeah, and now I'm really intrigued by this whole idea of Chianti as like a cultural icon. You know?
Oh, yeah, it's more than just a bottle of wine, that's for sure.
It's a symbol of Tuscany, of Italy, of this lifestyle that just seems so alluring to people.
It's a dream, right? That Tuscan dream.
And our source, they keep coming back to this connection between Chianti and the landscape. It's like you can taste the rolling hills, you know?
It's that sense of place, that terroir. You can almost feel the breeze and smell the herbs when you sip Chianti.
And I think that's why it resonates with people on such a deep level. It's not just about the taste, it's about the feeling.
It evokes memories. Even if you've never been there, it connects you to something real
It's like a little escape.
in a bottle.
Exactly. And this idea of Chianti as a living tradition, I find that fascinating.
Oh, it's constantly evolving, just like the region itself.
Our sources talk about the winemakers, how they're striking that balance.
Between tradition and innovation.
They're trying new things, experimenting with grapes, but always respecting the heritage.
It's a new chapter, building on what came before.
And there are so many challenges they're facing, you know?
Climate change, the market. It's a lot to navigate.
But they're finding ways to adapt.
They're resilient.
And one thing that really impressed me was their passion.
For Chianti, absolutely.
The dedication of these winemakers is incredible.
They're the stewards of the land, the keepers of the tradition.
It makes you realize there's so much more to a bottle of wine than just, you know, the liquid inside.
There's a whole story, a whole world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all this?
I hope they come away with a new appreciation for Chianti, not just as a wine, but as this cultural treasure,
A symbol of something special?
something that's worth cherishing.
I think that's beautiful.
And maybe it'll inspire them to explore further, try different Chiantis. Visit Tuscany.
That would be
It's
amazing.
an experience that everyone should have at least once.
And even if you can't get to Tuscany right away,
Just open a bottle of Chianti,
let it transport you.
close your eyes, take a sip, and you're there.
Well said. This has been a truly fascinating deep dive.
It has. Chianti is full of surprises.
And I hope our listeners feel inspired to uncork some of those surprises themselves.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, and thank you for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of, well, who knows what we'll explore next.
The possibilities are endless.
Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep enjoying those delicious discoveries.